Welcome to Truth Talks. I'm your host, Pumela. Our guest today is Professor Sodipo. He is an award-winning intellectual property lawyer. He wrote a book on intellectual property. He's also the senior advocate at Sodipo and Company. Welcome to Truth Talks, Professor.
My pleasure.
You're currently a professor at Babcock University. What propelled you to get into lawmaking?
Teaching lawmaking, my father was a lawyer.
Oh, really?
And from childhood, I just got fascinated by lawyering, which is trying to intervene in, and help people out and sort out their issues and counsel them. And then for teaching, my grandfather was a teacher. My mother was a teacher.
Really?
So,
so you came from a family of teachers.
That's right.
Wow. But why, I mean, do you teach intellectual properties as well at Babcock?
Yes, I teach intellectual property, company law, and from time to time, some other subjects they may assign to me. Yeah.
Why intellectual properties?
It's very fascinating.
Really?
Yeah. I have been involved with lobbying for and drafting the copyright law in Nigeria in 1988, representing publishers, composers, television stations, and so on.
Okay.
So that's what propelled me. Yeah.
But I mean, from, let's say, primary school up until university, did you take courses in preparation for this journey, or did you sort of sidetrack in between?
No. I was just fascinated by the problems which composers in Nigeria and publishers were facing.
Okay.
There was a lot of piracy. And so even though we have a big entertainment industry, for instance, there was very little remuneration to the artist apart from when they do their shows. You know, so a lot of television stations, radio stations not paying for the music they use.
Really?
And so those are the things that propelled me that this injustice must be curbed.
Right, right. So has that really solved the bootleg problem?
Yeah. In Nigeria, since the law was passed, there's been a lot of litigation, which has taught hotels, it has taught television stations, they have to pay. Music must pay. It's not just people play music without paying for it. The same thing goes for authors and so on. And recently in Nigeria, there's been a lot of interest even in our software industry. Zuckerberg visited because we have people who have very, very creative. And the law of intellectual property protects all these creatives.
Wow, that's quite interesting. I mean, I didn't think it was so deep. I mean, when you talk about law, you think about family law, immigration, criminology. You don't really look at, you know, intellectual property. So you've been doing this for, I guess, a few decades, right?
Yeah, sometimes I feel old, about 3 decades. But it's rewarding because we're seeing the culture that is changing. There's more respect now for intellectual property, and it's becoming a buzzword. Even though the levels of enforcement is still lower than what I expected after about 30 years. But we're not where we were yesterday.
Wow. So as a movie producer, for example, you know, you have a movie that you just created and you're trying to put it out there. Do they need to come and see you first before they launch it, or what would normally be the procedure of an artist?
Well, whether music or film, it's good to have their team, including the legal team. But in most parts of the world, you don't need any form of registration for copyright. So all that happens is they do their production and they get their contracts very tight.
Okay.
You know, once the contracts are all right, then if there's any form of breach, then legal advisors come in to tell them what to do.
Awesome. We'll be right back with Professor Sodipo. Professor, thank you so much for being a guest at Truth Talks. We've learned a lot about intellectual property and Nigeria and the copyright through you. We thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Remember, truth is not an option. It is your destiny. See you next time on Truth Talks.